All right, folks. Frank the guitar. Yeah, dude. What's up, y'all? Today is the 29th of January, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is In the Image Clothing Company podcast, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, let's get into this. This is actually episode 50 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. This is titled, intentionally, the opposite way of what I've normally heard it be said as, preaching what you practice. Let's get into this. What I'm going to do is a little bit of rundown, what the company is, where clothing needs to sit, the things that I talk about at the beginning of these episodes of the podcast for In the Image Clothing Company, and then we'll just get right into this beautiful episode. I'm saying it's beautiful because I know what it is going to be to a degree, and I'm excited for it. I'm grateful to be able to say what I'm going to say within this, so stick around if you'd like. If not, hey, then don't. But if you're being prompted to and you feel like kind of drawn to be like, I don't even know exactly what this is, but I kind of feel like I should stay, or whatever the case is, then maybe stay. Stick around. There's some good stuff. You'll get stuff from this. I don't care who you are. I mean that out of, I mean that in a good way. You're going to get stuff. It doesn't matter who you are, is what I mean. I know that you will. Because this episode is something where I'm going to share a lot of my own personal mistakes. So, In the Image Clothing Company addresses the human body's natural function. It does it through the skeletal system, though, because the body is not about the fat content that comes and goes at different times in our lives, and we have different amounts of at different times in our lives. And it's not about the muscle mass either, because that also comes and goes, and we have different amounts of muscle mass at different times in our lives. But the body, just like our decision to follow our living God, Jesus the Christ, which is where our name comes from, in the image of our God is how we are created and who we are created by. That's where the name In the Image Clothing Company comes from. So, we're all universally designed. Every one of us human beings, doesn't matter who you are, where you are on the earth. It's about the skeletal system. It's about a natural foundation, like we do with centering our lives around our God, as Christians, as disciples and followers of Jesus the Christ. Episode 50. In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Okay, clothing for everybody. Man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the earth. Doesn't matter. Our pants need to be all the way above our hips. All the way off of them so that they can have their natural ranges of motion and movement and just do what they naturally do. The waistline of our pants need to be slightly higher in the front than it is in the rear, because that way it keeps our pelvis in a nice position where our core can stay, as it would always be, activated. Now, the top seams of our shoulders need to sit evenly behind those little bones up there that are the other end of our collarbones, and that just keeps our shoulders back where they naturally sit behind our bodies in their neutral position, and then ideally just right at the very edges for the edge seams of our shoulders. Now, In the Image Clothing Company has two additional prerequisites that we always state when we discuss where we need to allow clothing to just sit on the body. And the first one is to lace the shoes that we wear with In the Image Clothing Company's shoelacing technique. Found wherever you find us, that technique just allows the feet to be unaltered. And with that technique included is to tie the shoes evenly over toward the inside to the center of the body, because there is a center line. No belief, no opinion, no yoga class. There's a spine there, a sternum, a nose. And that's how we get an even foundation traveling up. Secondly, we also, one of our prerequisites, the one that is the latter to the first, is to remove all tags from our clothing. That includes even within our shoes, because those tags can affect the dorsiflexion or plantar flexion of the ankles or the gripped arches within the feet. Tags anywhere else in clothing just do a similar thing, but to other parts of the body. So let's get into this. The reason I said it's a little bit like worded kind of backwards to what I would normally think of it as being worded, the title of this episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast is because when I've heard people say this phrase, I've heard it be said, practicing what you preach. But I'm titling this Preaching What You Practice, because that's what I try to do. You don't let me tell you how it's got to be one way or the other, cut and dry, this or that only, no black and white type of separation between the two, but this is one big thing. Practicing what you preach, to me, can imply that we can read things or hear things and know what to preach, and then we can try to practice these things. But in order of operation, I would say, out of my hearing of when this phrase gets spoken, preaching what you practice, to me, implies there's things that you practice in your life and they're working good. And so let's share them, right? One's got to come before the other, right? Maybe. I'm saying so as far as this. Not that it's I'm saying something, but that's the way that I'm approaching this is what I mean, okay? So that's what I do within In the Image Clothing Company. Because then in that way we can speak out of personal experience. And here's a big thing. If you've heard any episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast up until this point, you will know or be able to know that one of the most commonly said things by me is that we are sinful by nature, human beings. We're naturally sinful. Within the Book of Mormon, it says to put off the natural man and have an eye single to God's glory. Because naturally, starting with the very first human being, Adam, we're sinful. He fell. If you've heard of the fall of Adam, Adam sinned. The first thing that happened, there's many episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast where I have discussed the story of the garden, where Adam was first placed, the Garden of Eden. He sinned, and he was supposed to. He was the first one out of all of us to do it. A lot of us like to be first. Would you want to be the first sinner in a perfect garden, a perfect state, when ever since you were created you had been sinless? And everybody else that existed at that time, because he was the only one besides his wife, Eve. So, what I'm doing right now, and as I go through my life, trying my best to do, is preaching what I practice. And so I'm practicing sinning. I'm messing up, making mistakes, doing a lot of bad things. I've done a lot of bad things. I'll continue to. As righteous as I can get, I'll continue to do bad things. We're evil. We're human beings. We're messing up. You know, you send a text to somebody who you really care about, and you try to make it as loving as you can because that was your intention. And then the next day, they're showing up at your doorstep and screaming at you because they think that you are so upset with them, right? I mean, we mess up. How are we ever going to get anything across correct? We're not. And in every single way, we sin, always. On our best days, we're evil. That's how human beings are. But that's why we have a perfect God and a perfect Savior who is the mediator between us and perfection, because we will never be within this life perfect, right? Now, yeah, I'm just here preaching what I practice. And I love it because that's something that was hard for me to do throughout my life. It's just being real about telling people the things that are working for me. You know, I'd be saying stuff that people probably wanted to hear, that I thought they wanted to in my mind. But, hey, yeah, what if you, I start thinking something up to be like, hey, what's going to sound good to this person, But no, I'm trying my best now, and I'm doing a pretty good job at it. To preach about all the sins that I am doing. How's that, dude? That's cool. I love that. I'm so grateful, dude. I mean, it's crazy, man. I mean, I'm sitting here, lacing my shoes up, correct, learning how that is, and then preaching about it after I've practiced, right? I'm sitting here, taking all the tags out of my clothing, having more internal rotation than most people around the whole place that I'm at, wherever I'm at. And then I'm talking about it and sharing how to allow this stuff to happen within your own personal body. I'm going before, everybody else, as far as the things that I'm personally delivering out of my own speaking, right? So, yeah, it's really cool, man. I think that's so beautiful, though, man. I mean, how many people... I'm sitting here condemning people, man, in my own mind, though, right? I'm not, like, verbally saying stuff to people like, you're so bad, you did this and that. But in my mind, it's an instant judgment sometimes. Somebody does something I'm not so fond of, but it's the same thing that I did 3 nights ago. You shouldn't do that. And I know because I did it, Yeah, man, you hear somebody doing something that you know you shouldn't be doing. Okay, let me stop talking in that kind of way. I hear people, that's what I'm really saying. But I mean, it applies to all of us. But I want to be very direct about this is me. This is episode 50. This is halfway to 100 episodes within In The Image Clothing Company podcast. This is preaching what I practice. So let's talk about me. It's not about me, other than, let me tell you how many mistakes I've made. I love that. You know the way to freedom? To realize you're a captive. It's the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. You know the way to stop judging others? Well, if so, let me know. Because the point is I still judge. I feel like I'm a pretty good Christian. I'm trying. And I'm trying well. I'm trying hard. I don't want to try hard on anything in my life. I just want to do what's needed. But it's not really my life that we're talking about when I'm trying to be the best disciple of Jesus Christ that I can, because that is something I'm trying hard at. Let me paint you a photography location. I like that. I've been doing a weird kind of lifestyle lately. No, in all seriousness, I mean, I'm being serious this whole time. It's just the accent. Sometimes I talk like a thug. I put a hat on like this, dude, and all of a sudden I'm in 10th grade. Listening to Marshall Mathers. Like, you know what I mean? Really. That's kind of what happens a lot of the time. So, but I'm being authentic at the same time. It's just there's different sides to me. There's a lot of different sides to me. And they're all me, really. Except for the times that I'm obviously like, not being authentic. But yeah, there's a lot of sides to me. So let's get into that. Because here's the thing. Dude. My life, I haven't had any kind of money in like around a year, give or take. Yeah. And within that, I had, maybe a little less than a year, but maybe not. Maybe, less than a year, actually, because there were some things I bought last spring. Definitely had some money then. But, got no money for the past quite a many months, close to a year. I have no vehicle of my own, which, depending on where you're at or who you are, that's not a weird thing or not any kind of different, but it's something I always had until recent. I've had the same, just very few as well, items of clothing for many months. I haven't really left this house very many times. My sleep schedule is entirely who knows at any given day. Sometimes I'm sleeping when the sun's up and then fully awake while the sun's down. And then sometimes I'm like only sleeping a few hours and it's just at a random part of the day. And sometimes I'm sleeping quite a few hours. It's just kind of all over the place. And I'm living on basically nothing. I'm going to get to why I'm saying this. I'm not complaining. No complaints. Definitely no complaints. I'm going to get to why I'm saying this. I've been living on basically milk and chocolate milk powder that I pour into the whole milk. And my mom's been buying like everything for me. My mom wasn't living with me since I was 7 years old. And so that was a weird thing once I moved in with her when I was 22. That was a whole shock, I mean, you miss out on that much of your life without your mom, and then all of a sudden you're with her. A lot of dynamics that like I never really got to experience in those years, and so it's a lot of weird stuff for me personally to go through. And I haven't had social media in I don't want to just try to over-exaggerate it, but 3 years, because it was around December, and it wasn't last year, it wasn't the year before. Somewhere around 3 years. As far as I'm aware, it might have been November rather than December, whatever year it was. I think it's been that long, though. Right? I mean, as far as any kind of like traditional now time social media that people have, people are spending time on. I was one of them, but I haven't for this past few years. I haven't had a cell phone plan, so I'm not texting anybody. I'm not calling people. I don't have any kind of internet access through the little device that I have if I'm outside of this home where I live that I don't pay rent for. Right? I'm like I said, right? Pull out your DSLR. We just stepped into a place. Some ambiance is going on, and I'm just like, putting the pieces of this picture back in the puzzle. And now we're looking at this thing that has been my life for the past little while. So it's been about a year since I haven't had a cell phone plan. I think it was like, March, probably. 11 months maybe, 11-ish. Yeah, man, I mean, 25 years old. Got a weird life right now, and it's been great. It's been amazing, actually. My grandparents own this home that I currently live in and have lived in since I said that I moved in with my mom, because she lives here as well. I was 22 at that time. I don't know how they're just letting me be here. I mean, they're probably not. They've definitely asked me to get a job, but in a way like, hey, go blossom, go get a job so that you can do the things that other people do. Not because they like, they're not trying to be pushy. I'm not trying not to. I mean, again, I don't know. I don't know I don't know how much people are holding back from what they're trying to say to me, but I'm trying all that I can do to not be like taking advantage of the situation and things, really, genuinely. But, they've been really, really kind and lenient. I mean, I'm in a situation that people don't really normally get to have, especially not at the age that I'm at least around here. I mean, different parts of the world is different. Everything's different everywhere else. Meaning, your next door neighbor has an entirely different dynamic within their household than you do. Or the person over in Yugoslavia, right? So, the point is, got a weird life right now. And boy, am I grateful to. Strange and peculiar is how they describe the disciples of Jesus Christ within the written word, which is the Holy Bible. So, yeah, it's weird, and it's weird times 3. This is what I love, though. I'm preaching what I practice. I'm not sitting here just like, I think it'd be a good thing to do X, Y, and W. And so, hey guys, why don't we start doing this? You guys really got to start doing this. But, behind the scenes, like, let's say I'm not doing it. No, I'm doing the things that I'm saying, hey, let's do. That's why I'm saying them. And that's why I am different than I used to be, right? How many times can I say it's not me, it's not about me, because I couldn't do these things? I didn't. Don't believe me. How many times do I say that? Don't believe me, right? I'm just out here preaching what I practice. I'm out here just, talking about how much we mess up. And I like that question. How many mistakes can you make? How many mistakes are we allowed to make? That might be a podcast episode in itself, because I've been feeling that. I love that question. So what I'm doing is answering that question by making a lot of them. And the answer is, as crazy as it is, as many as we possibly could within our life. So, it's been a weird thing, right? I mean, it's been weird. But here's the thing, too. I mean, like, I'm sitting here, right, talking about, hey, we can't rely on other human beings. We can't compare, right? We can't run from things because they're just there and they're just what they are. But at the same time, definitely, in every case that we can, stay out of things, right? The first thing is always avoid the situation. But then, if it's something that's, like, not bad to be there, as in it's not going to negatively affect you, by being there, and you're not doing anything to negatively affect anybody else there, even if the situation itself's not that great, then, maybe if there's things you're supposed to learn in it, but it's a little bit uncomfortable and you're trying to maybe get out of it because you don't want to deal with the discomfort, I'm still doing that. How many times am I telling us that we're not in charge, that I'm trying to control things, So the point is, I'm preaching what I practice because I think that's the biggest thing that I hit on, is that we're sinful by nature. And boy, am I. How many times are we going to mess up, How many times are we going to think our lives going in the direction that we are assuming, hoping, wishing, wanting, believing? And those are things that don't let me tell you what to do, but I always say, I don't believe in anything, and I really don't. I'm a devoted disciple of Jesus Christ. I know that he is here and now and always. And the gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth of all things. Just don't believe me, but I don't believe it. I know it. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that I'm sitting here trying to believe in for a second or two, And it happens, dude. How many times are we going to go back and forth, We're just a kind of a pinball machine of a human being a lot of the time in our lives. I know I am. I'm not speaking for you, but I'm speaking for the human race. We're all the same. Yeah. But I love it. I really love it, because what it does is bring me closer to Christ. Every time. Every time. What'll happen is a period of entirely just giving basically everything that I can up and away. And sounded a lot like a Peter Pan type movie. Shout out to Captain Hook, though, right? No, I love that. Seriously, that's what it is, right? I mean, we're doing all that we can sometimes. And then once things start to feel like they're going good, then we start to reach for the riches, And I don't mean literally money in my case, but I'll be like, man, yes, I've been, putting myself aside and trying to put you first, Father. I've been pleading and praying and trying so hard to do only your will. And my life really does look weird. And I really have given up an immense amount of things. I mean, I live in 2025. And I haven't had a cell phone for right around a year. Well, that's unheard of. Well, at least around where I'm at, right? And my own personal past. It hasn't been that way since I was 12 years old. And things like that. I don't waste time doing stuff that I used to. And boy, have I changed in a lot of ways. But let me word it this way, because this is the truth. Boy, have I been changed. But then what happens is a lot of times I start to think am I there? At least to a checkpoint, I mean, we're never there. There's no finish line in this life except for death. That really is the finish line. And the whole point of life, let me give some context to that, is to get closer to Christ, our God, our Redeemer, the one who will grant us eternal life, but we do have to die first. But sometimes I feel like, hey, have I hit a checkpoint? I mean, I've been kind of cooped up in this house. I'm not complaining, but I really have. If I'm just speaking out of, if I'm just preaching what I practice, I've been cooped up in this house for a while, and I've been doing that out of obedience and trying and putting myself aside. Actually, I really actually have. Nobody could dispute that if they really know what's actually going on here and what my life has looked like. And I'm trying to live on daily bread, as we talk about. There's an episode of the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Daily Bread, where I discuss that and how that looks. And that's a biblical term, gospel doctrinal term. But within all this, it's hey, do I get a little bit of a reward? Sometimes I'm thinking man, I mean, I don't want it, and I'm telling you I don't want it, and that's out of authenticity. But then, hey, what about that whole natural man? What about that whole sinful by nature? What about that whole, sometimes I revert to partaking of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which was the sin that Adam did, right? I mean, first sin was just wanting to know what's up, what's right, what's wrong, rather than keeping that surrender. It's I feel like I've done pretty good. How about I kind of branch out a little bit and try to figure out some things on my own now that I've, yeah. It's hard, man. That's what I do, though. That's what I do. Time and time again, I do that, I mean, I really am so surrendered. Don't believe me. But look at my life. And don't, if you don't have to. I mean, you can entirely turn this podcast episode off. I mean, some people might have already before they got to this point. Or maybe you did, and now you've like watched this for the second time through because you're like, maybe I'll give it a second chance. And then now you're hearing me say this because yeah, no, you turn it off if you want. You don't got to listen to me. I mean that. But you know, that's kind of one of the big things. I don't want to be seen by people, and I preach that. But I preach it because I practice it first. I actually get disgusted by people. The world's disgusting. People are disgusting. Fake conversations are disgusting. Attention on human beings are disgusting. You know, I had somebody, okay, just in case the person who said this to me hears this, I'm not trying to be mean to you. This is not at all me trying to be mean. But somebody tonight told me that they're impressed by me at the place that I was at. And I didn't have like some reaction or try to like preach to them about it. But within myself, I was like, man, I don't want you to be thinking that way about another human being, whether it's me or Superman. Doesn't matter who it is or what they've done. Don't be impressed by another human. You know, and it's puts you in this bind, man, because you want to be doing good things, but I don't want to be congratulated for things. I really don't. I really, 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 please hear that correct. I don't. And so that's why I like to be alone so much too, you know, because I can do whatever and it can be the coolest thing in the world and nobody's gonna sit there and like praise me. I just want to hang out, dude. I just want to do whatever I want to do, you know? It makes me feel bad for the other person because I remember being a kid and being so impressed by people, you know? And they start to look up to people because of them. You start to emulate them, you know, and they start to become them. And now where'd you go? A lot of people I was impressed by as a little boy, and I tried to become them. But you can't do that. So I don't want anyone to be impressed by me with anything. I mean, yeah, sure, I can do some really cool things, but I don't need applause. I don't need congratulations. I mean, well, here's the thing, dude. I mean, my birthdays growing up, it looked weird compared to most people's birthdays that I've witnessed happen. You know, I mean, I don't like parties, man, of my own. I don't like people to celebrate me. I mean it. Out of like, I mean it. You know, sometimes people don't feel like they're worthy of being celebrated in a way where they like feel down on themselves. That's not what this is. I just don't care for the congratulations. You know? It's sad, bro, because I've been in that position before, just idolizing people, man. Well, like I say, you know, I mean, how many times am I going to keep doing that? You know, from this point till the day that I'm not breathing anymore. It might happen a lot. But that's what I'm saying is like, I'm out here preaching what I practice, you know? I'm practicing messing up, dude, big time, you know? And I like to be able to. I think people put such, you know, glory on somebody's successes, but why, dude? I mean, it's just a little momentary thing. And, you know, I'm okay with seeing other people, like, have a good time about other people's stuff to a degree. I mean, because I understand it, you know, they're just trying to, like, be happy for them, you know, but I don't like that, man. I want people to just be real with me. But I'm not trying to control people either. And the next thing you know, I'm turning around and basically doing all that I can to try to control people. I'm out here preaching what I practice, brother. Because we're sinful by nature, dude. I don't want to be impressive. And that's, yeah, hear this, if you would. Or turn it off, that's fine. But what I mean is, if you're going to listen to this. Alright, now it's like I'm giving some kind of expectation. Listen to this, though. I'm good at stuff. And I just am. I'm a really, really, really capable person. Don't believe me, it doesn't matter if you do. But it's the truth. I mean, I can do things like I can shred through a guitar pretty well. You know, I used to do a lot of cool stuff, dude. Stuff is cool, but not that I need congrats for. But I was really good at mountain biking. I'd be flying down trails. I mean, we'd ride black diamonds often. I'm good at mountain biking. I'm just good at stuff, dude. I mean, I'm really good with speaking and working words. I'm good at a lot of stuff, dude. And I just am, I'm good at fixing things and putting things together and solving problems. I'm good at being a leader, and that's why I am the founder of this company. In the Image Clothing Company. But, I don't want congratulations, because even when I think I do want it, it leaves you empty. If you don't congratulate somebody, they can feel good. If you congratulate somebody, the second that applause is over, they feel worse than if there was no applause to begin with. Somebody's just sitting there doing their thing, and they're doing something really cool, and you can just kind of sit there and look at it and be like, ah, nice, dude. There's like a casuality to it, looking at someone who did something good or cool or well, and giving them that like subtle, like, oh, that's sweet, versus like, oh my goodness, do it again. That was crazy. Like, calm down. I don't even want to hear that. I'm so sick of it, bro. How hypocritical can I be, right? Don't judge people. That's a good thing to say, and I've been saying that. But next thing you know, I'm judging someone. You know what I mean? I'm just out here preaching what I practice. The fact that we're sinful. Yeah. I think a lot of times what ends up happening is we get upset with people the most when they're doing the things that we've got upset ourselves the most for doing. Or we feel like we hold ourselves to a higher standard too than anything else that we do. You want to be so honest and somebody's lying to you. You want to tear them to shreds. It's hypocrisy. I'm doing it left and right. Like I'm saying, the most righteous human being on the earth is doing it left and right. Simple by nature. I preach when I practice. Yeah. I think a good thing to practice is learning from mistakes, because we're going to keep making them, so. Let's learn from them. And that's what I'm doing right here, How many times in my past am I making mistakes and doing things wrong? I'm trying to pretend like I never did. Now I've got this podcast where I'm voluntarily sitting on the ground, putting a camera in front of my face and telling the whole globe, potentially. Every single human that ever lives on this planet could potentially see this video. Why not? And if they did, the only reason they know from this the mistakes that I've made is because I'm voluntarily making them public, practicing what I preach. But actually, really what I'm doing is preaching what I practice. Because once I started this podcast, it was an invitation for me to start being a little bit open when I've spent my entire life behind closed doors. My dad doing things to us as a family that the world didn't know about. People wouldn't believe, but it happened. And I never opened my mouth about it up until recent. But there were some beautiful people, one of them in particular, sitting in Institute, last Institute semester, the fall semester, within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Institute is where we sit there. We have it on Wednesday nights, and we have lessons on the gospel of Jesus Christ. And there's this one girl that was in the class that I was in, and she kept making comments, and she's talking about her past, talking about growing up, talking about how her parents were so terrible to her, and the experience she had. And that was beautiful for me. coming from a past of, don't say this, or else, I don't know, felt like I was gonna die, like get killed or something crazy, seriously, you know? But now I'm sitting here preaching what I practice, because I'm telling people that it's okay to own up to what they've done by owning up to what I've done. You know? I mean, if we're supposed to leave everything out in the open, because there's nothing that's hidden that won't come to the light eventually. We can't hide from our God. Nobody can. We're all equals under Him. And yeah, we can't hide, bro. So stop trying. Hey, I'm not trying to call anybody out on anything or throw anybody under the bus, but I'm speaking on what happened to me as a kid, man. Growing up, my dad was the sneakiest little fox. He'd be doing things like I'm saying in moments and times and ways that nobody else probably would find out. And then if they did, he'd try to make it something it wasn't. So this girl in Institute, speaking on her own experience, gave me some courage to speak on mine. Because she wasn't speaking bad about her family. You know, she kept saying similar to what I say. Nobody's perfect. Nobody knows how to parent perfectly. Nobody knows how to love perfectly. Nobody really knows what they're doing here. We're just, you know, what do I say? Sinful by nature. But it gave me an opportunity to start to look at my life and be like, wow, look how much I got from this woman who wasn't talking bad about others, but she was definitely telling her experience of things they did to her. And I've had a lot of things that people have done to me, and I don't have to have any kind of intention about hurting that person's reputation to just speak on experiences that I have had that weren't up to me, but they were definitely because of the actions of others. So I'm out here preaching what I practice. I'm out here relating to people by sharing my negative experiences, my addictions, my times of turmoil where people have hurt me physically, emotionally, psychologically, big time. Manipulated me, lied to me, gaslighted me. I mean, what do you want to do, you know? Spiritual warfare. It's not a fun thing, but boy, is it real. I'm out here just, preaching what I practice. In other words, I've been in like this involuntary war ground my whole life. And now let's talk about it. Right? Going through those repetitions. Like I said, I feel like I'm kind of like a thug sometimes because I was junior high school, little boy who was so scared that he was going to get beat up that before 7th grade started, I was doing push-ups on the floor of my living room and looking up how to fight on YouTube so that I would hopefully be okay. Because all I knew at home was hide. Because, it's a little bit scary. So I'm just out here preaching. But only because I practice these things first. Yeah. It's crazy, dude. That's why I say, I call it the gift of video. My whole life, I've been filming stuff since I had something to film with. And I'm just trying really hard to open up, man. I've been a closed book my whole life, but it's because I lived in a place where I was locked up. I mean, I lived in a house, dude, where I wasn't even a lot of times allowed to go outside. I wasn't allowed to open the blinds. Wasn't allowed to turn on the lights. And this is real, and it gets real, dude. And yeah, had a lot of practice with being a prisoner, so let's talk about it. Right? Preach when I practiced, bro. But I didn't get a choice to practice this kind of stuff, right? But there we go. And so a lot of people look at my life, man, and they think I'm just sitting in this house, taking advantage of my grandparents or my mom, and I don't have a job, like I said. But cool, I'll own up to it, dude. I know how capable I am, and I am, dude. And I could go get any job, bro. But I'm doing something different right now, and it's a lot of really good preparation type of stuff, in a different way than I was being prepared growing up. It's just a lot, man, and that's what I want to do, man. It's just own up to it, I mean, yeah, cool. I know it. I know what's going on, bro, but let me talk about it. Let me tell you how terrible I am. Because I had a lot of practice being it, right? We're just messing up, dude. Who doesn't, right? Who doesn't mess up, bro? Only the people who pretend they don't. My dad. Just out here, preaching what I practiced. Practiced being a scapegoat, but not out of my own doings. Practiced being the one that got the blame put on him on everything because I was just a little kid. I'm just a little kid, dude. I'm just out here preaching what I practice, Just being sinful by nature. Just messing up. Just having expectations that I know I shouldn't, and then they don't happen, and I'm still crushed, even when I say I don't believe in anything. And I don't hope for anything. But next thing you know, right? It's the back and forth. It's the pendulum. It's the swing. Yep. We get tired of swinging sometimes. Get it? A lot of times they make swings out of tires for vehicles. I mean, what do you want? You want to be perfect? Do you really? Because I don't. You've been trying to be perfect? Yeah? To a degree, maybe? A little bit? Wholeheartedly? That's your main goal? Where are you at? We all got a level of trying to be. Because that's what we think we need to be doing as human beings to be accepted, man. Sinful by nature human beings, I'm just out here preaching what I practice. Yeah, I've practiced how to get ahead in my past, dude. How am I going to get ahead of this guy, Yeah, how am I going to impress this girl so I get seen? I mean, whether I'm like 5 years old or current time, anywhere in between or whatever. I mean, as much as I say that's not what I'm focused on, next thing you know, I'm trying to impress a woman. When I say out of authenticity, I don't like it when people are impressed by me. You know what I mean? I'm out here preaching what I practice. I'm practicing being somebody who's on both ends of things at the same time. Single-minded human being who's thinking about 40 things at once. How does that make any sense? I don't know, but let's talk about it. Had a lot of practice doing that kind of thing. Being stuck in my head when I'm preaching to surrender. But I mean, I am, like I'm saying. But where's the scale? How do we measure that? Someone's level of surrender, What, we're going to sit here and compare? Oh, yeah? You got rid of that thing and, you're not so focused on that anymore? Well, guess what I did? I took $4,000 and burned it the other week because I'm not putting my trust in money anymore, right? I mean, that's just hypothetical, but right? You know what I mean? We really going to try to compare? Or are we going to sit here and just, preach what we practice? We're going to get up on Sunday mornings within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. First Sunday of each month, we call it Fast and Testimony Meeting. In the first meeting, where we take the sacrament, right? We renew our covenant to remember our God always, which is something we can't do. So what are we doing? We out there preaching what we practice or practicing what we preach? Right? I mean, which end are we on, really? Yeah, man. Let's get up there. Let's get up there in fast and testimony meeting and be like, hey, congregation, everybody, all you people here, whether you're pretending to get this girl to like you or to get that guy to buy you a new necklace, if you got a real testimony or you're in here trying to see if that's even a real thing, can we just admit that we make some mistakes? Can we get up here and preach about the fact that this whole week we've been practicing ways to get around the commandments and our God's perfect will to try to do what we want? Can we own up to this? You? Oh, you don't want me to point you out, huh? Okay, sorry. You want me to sit down, though? Because I know that, there's been people standing on a pulpit, and if they weren't to have said what they've done wrong, then those beautiful experiences I had getting things from their stories wouldn't have been there. That propelled me in the ways that they do, right? It's beautiful to get up in front of people. And, getting up in front of people can mean sitting on the floor and looking at someone saying, dude, I messed up big time, man. And it might hit them straight to the soul and convict them of something they've been doing very similar. We share our testimonies because it helps both of us. It strengthens us. Really what a testimony is hey, let me tell you how many times I've been practicing, sinning, messing up. Anybody got a pulpit? I've got a scoreboard here, a list from perfect to never going to be. And what was the first thing that I said? Because I'm only focused on the last one and the fact that my God is. Right? The last will be first. In other words, we're messing up our whole lives so that once we get resurrected, we'll be perfect. You like that paradox? Whether you like it or not. How many times you saying there's things you don't like to do, and next thing you know, you're sneaking into that thing, whatever it is. You seen Kung Fu Panda? Pretty sure it's made by DreamWorks Studios, if that's what they're called. Poe, he's wanting to be a dragon master. He's wanting to be a Kung Fu professional. But even though he's training, he's still sneaking into the cookie jars. Eating cookies. When, it seems to be that you stay away from cookies to try to, get your body to be all nice and, ninja. Martial artist, right? How many times have you heard me say, if you have, that I fanboy over martial artists? Talking about main side of the Image Clothing Company. Right? We're messing up left and right. So, let's talk about it. You ever been to an AA meeting? I haven't. Doesn't matter if you have or not. The point is, if you know what it is, it's a place where people have addictions and they all gather together to share about it. Hey, everybody. I've been practicing all these terrible things, and I'm going to preach about how it's not a good thing to do. Right? We practice sometimes. How can I sin and get away with it? Yeah. Last time I did this thing that I know I shouldn't have done, I got caught. So this time I'm going to try as hard as I can to just learn what I need to do it in a way that nobody's going to find out. So I can continue to do the thing that I'm trying so hard to avoid. I'm out here preaching what I practice, right? That's what it is. It's the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. Who's not self-righteous? Yeah, they're preaching what you practice. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, tell me you're a holy saint, bro, whatever. What are you really doing? You trying to elevate yourself? What am I doing? I got a podcast talking about the gospel of Jesus Christ, talking about how the things I talk about are just universal truths and all correct and whatever, What am I doing? Am I being self-righteous? Am I out here practicing what I preach or preaching what I practice? Which end am I on? You know what I mean? Am I just working up to something to have some kind of big letdown later? Or am I really sitting here telling you things that are how they are because I've had some big letdowns in my past and I've learned from it? That's the end I'm trying to be on. But what are we in? We're in a probationary state. We're kind of caught in between. And I like to say that we should live in the space in between, right? You got this thing, you got that thing, you're looking all around, but let's just look between them, right? See the forest, not the trees. Or you might hit one of them, kind of get stuck. Yeah? I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to be stuck anywhere except for in a state of surrender. And I got to surrender to the fact that I am what I am, and I'm a human being who messes up, bro. How many times are we going to come back full circle, right? We got an episode of In the Image Clothing Company titled One Eternal Round. It always comes back, bro. So the whole thing is like, when do you want to be perfect? Because I don't. But what I can do is rely on the one who is. And so I'm out here preaching what I practice. I'm out here just, talking about the mistakes I've made. And I'm going to continue to. But I'm out here as well saying how good I've overcome some things. And then, the next night, I'm doing those very things again. So where are we? Where are we really? Well, where I am is at the understanding that we won't ever. And I said something very similar to that in one of these past episodes here of the podcast for In the Image Clothing Company. But, no, I really am, to every degree that I can, preaching what I practice. I really am. Seriously. And I think, the way that this started, this here episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, when I was discussing how my life looks, it really, I am. I'm surrendering. Big time. So let me compare it to you, if I could, please. Can you give me like 5 minutes of your time to just let me tell you how much better than you I am, and like how much harder I'm trying to surrender than you are, and how much like you should step up your game because I stepped up mine, and where do we go? I mean, what do we actually really say? What's actually okay to say as a human being to another one who's just the same as you? I mean, what are we doing? We're like, that thing where you don't know who's gonna do what, and so you like pull straws, right? I mean, you got some sticks or straws or something that's inside of a container that you can't see the length of, and it's like whoever takes the shortest one out has to do the thing. It's like we're all doing that, trying to like scheme against each other to see how can I make sure that I get the one that's not the one that I don't want, and we're all reaching into something with the equal length straw, and then by the end of it, we realize like, hey, I was trying so hard to be better than you, and there was no way that I could. And then you're just like playing with the swords and fighting each other with these equal length straws, right? Like just realizing at the end that like it's all a game. I think that's great, and I think that's a good place to be, right? Just realize it's a game the whole time, because it is. But this game does have some rules, but they're more like guidelines with an immense amount of love mixed in, and grace upon grace, and forgiveness times forgiveness, and somebody who's perfect as the referee. So it's a weird kind of game, but it is one. And every time I step out of this house, it's like, shoot. Just start to realize how much of a privilege it is to be here. Not because I'm not paying to be here, and not because of any reason that most anybody would think, but because it's a security in isolation. I mean, I'm not antisocial. I'm not socially awkward. I'm not somebody who's afraid of experience. In fact, I'm on the opposite ends of those things. But I don't like the world. And I don't benefit from being out there to see the things that the people put so much importance on. I love it in this house. But this house could be this walking trail that I spent hours a day on during the summer of 2024. This house could be my mountain bike back when I had it. Meaning a place where it's just me and my Father. My real Father. Jesus Christ. And how paradoxical is that as a human being to understand? We got the Father, we got the Son, and we got the Holy Ghost, but wait, they're all one. What? But then we got Joseph Smith, who restored the true church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and he had the Father and the Son both appear to him. But they're the same thing. What? What? Whoa. I'm out here preaching what I practice. Trying to grasp some things that I never will fully in this life. So let's talk about it. Because I've been practicing that. How do we accept things that we can't understand? Or that we want to be different, but we're not going to change? don't know. How beautiful is that? My whole life growing up, never wanting to say I don't know because my dad sure didn't like that. He wanted an answer for everything, but then it was always wrong. So you start saying I don't know all the time because that way it's like, this might get me out of trying to, come up with something that I don't even care to come up with, but it might please him, but then you say I don't know, and now, like, you've lied. So sometimes it triggers me big time when people lie to me. But how many times did I lie growing up? Because there was, like, nothing else to do to feel safe, right? I mean, really? So there's reasons to things, Can we have a little bit of understanding, please? I'm out here preaching what I practice. I've practiced being a very non-understanding human being, looking at people with, like, you should just know how to do that. And the next thing you know, I don't know what I'm doing, right? I'm out here practicing what I... Yeah. Well, the thing is, I wasn't preaching stuff before I got the opportunity to do it. I didn't say much as a kid, but I sure experienced a lot, so now I'm just preaching about it after it's been a practice of mine, right? I feel like a monk, dude, but in a pretty unconventional and traditional, unorthodoxical, popsicle kind of way. I don't know, I got a shaved head. Does that count for something? Hey, look, I'll take the beanie off. What's up, y'all? No hair, dude. At least not in any kind of length that people would mostly consider having actually, like, a full head of hair. I mean, what are we talking about, right? Because what I want to talk about is the truth. And growing up, I sure didn't get much of that. So that's why I don't like lies. So I'm sitting here preaching what I practiced, right? I'm sitting here preaching what I practiced. I mean, you don't like lies, but then you become someone who does them, right? I didn't like being manipulated and lied to all my life, and so then when my dad would ask me something, I'd lie. Because if I told the truth, he'd use that and twist it into a lie and use it against me. So if I lie about something, then I've already given you something that's corrupt anyway, because you're going to corrupt it. But now, hey, what? You're going to turn it back to a good thing, maybe, right? Who knows? How many times can we cheat the system when I'm sitting here trying to say that we need to surrender? I mean, how many times do you want to be seen by somebody? Because I don't. Really don't. But then I'll get around people and be like, they're asking a question, and I do know the answer, and I really do. And then I say it. And then it's like opening up a conversation all of a sudden, and I'm like, darn, I wish I didn't, man. So I'm sitting here preaching what I practice, Practicing being hypocritical, because I am. I'm a human being, bro. I like this, episode 50, Sometimes we're like halfway there. Yeah, not much more, I'd say. And I don't want to be much more, because that's the whole thing. I don't want to be right. My dad was always right, even when he was wrong. Sure didn't like that. That tore me up inside. Big time. I mean, you never get to win once. But that's some good practice, because we're not supposed to. It's the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. I mean, we live at the bottom. That's where you're actually going to be content. It's not some kind of like, I guess I'll settle for it. But that's really what this place is, bro. That's really what this place is. It's not about me, dude. Don't believe me on it, but look around. How many people that got like just about nothing and they're happy? It's not really, about happiness. That's a very, very quick, fleeting emotion, but like they're content, man. They're joyful. They're people who are just, they seem like they're full of something. Who knows what it is, because next thing you know, it's drugs or alcohol. And you're sitting there preaching what you practiced. Because you practiced talking someone up for how authentic they were, when the whole time they were just acting a certain way to get other people to like them. I'm gonna sit on that for a second. Talk about that idolization, right? I mean, nobody can serve two masters, man. We have one God. You can sure serve the devil if you want to, and a lot of people do. Can I say something? I don't care if you say yes, I'm gonna say it. I'm out here preaching what I practice, bro. I'm gonna turn it back on you. In the sense of showing you that I'm doing the same thing. Been many times in my life, dog, I've been serving the devil. I mean, not in any kind of like, ritualistic, crazy. No, not that. For me, and I'm not condemning, because again, who's to say? What if I was doing things that were totally that, and I wasn't realizing it at the time, Stuff like that. I mean, man, yeah, dude. I mean, who's to say? You think you're living this holy life, and next thing you know, you realize you've been going the wrong direction. Right? You're holding the compass out in front of you trying to get somewhere, and you got a magnet in your pocket. And it's like pointing the exact opposite direction you're trying to head. But like you're following it just as it says. Yeah, but what are you really following? Right? My North Star is something that I can see with my eyes closed. Right? We worship our living God in spirit and truth, not in a temple or a church. You can do it there too. Talk about metaphors, similes, What do you want to use, man? What do you want to say? What do you want to do? I got a lot of wordplay. I really do, and I love it. I got a podcast, bro. Hold the applause, hold the applause. As in, like, please. I'm not trying to make it like I'm preaching. I'm trying to make it like I'm preaching what I've practiced. How backwards we want to get this kind of life, bro? That's what makes pastors so influential. Motivational speakers, that's what makes them so influential. Because they're up there actually preaching what they've practiced. They've practiced picking themselves up. And a lot of times the reason they were on the ground was because of the things that they themselves had done. How many times in my past, I'm not going to ask that question, I'm going to tell you. How many times in my past, let me say, a lot, that I was doing things personally to just like derail my own train, I mean, I'm like questioning where the tracks are when sabotage them, right? Because like I'm on my way to somewhere that I think is going to be really great, but I'm scared about it. So, I'm going to call ahead and have somebody do some repair work on these tracks on the exact date when am I heading over there? And then like tell them, and like we get on the way to where I want to be, but I don't feel like I'm worthy of it. Because I'm not, never will be, but right? And then all of a sudden like, whoo, there happens to be some construction. You know what I'm saying? But it's something we've done. That's where the motivational speakers come from, man. The people who grew up self-sabotaging. Right? It was all I was used to. Everybody around me, dude. No exaggeration. They'll own up to it, except for the ones who don't. How crazy is that? Everyone's around me calling me the scapegoat, telling me, hey, it's your fault. You did this. You're just a kid. You're the boy. I didn't have a name growing up. My dad called me the boy. Not out of some kind of, like, puppy dog nickname. I was nameless. I went years of my life with my dad and his girlfriend both calling me the boy. All right. Maybe we can get into all the pity parties we want, and that's not what I'm trying to do, but I am saying I'm preaching what I practiced. I practiced living in a kennel to know what it's like to escape the pound. Right? I was lost and now I'm found, right? These scriptural things that are just actually exactly what we do as human beings. Yeah, like a little puppy dog got lost in this big old world because it is. It's a small world after all the stuff you go through. Because then you can look at it and be like, oh, now I understand, but holy cow, was that crazy for a bit. Right, so I'm just out here preaching what I practiced. All right, anyway. The point is, dude, I'm going to be the first one to say that I'm the last one to want to admit, right? How many times can we just come at it from both ends and they both be correct? Because it's the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ, the truth of all things. I'm going to give a little forewarning as I do. If this does cut, it's not me cutting something out, but the storage space on this little device that I have. Like I said, I bought this little small device. This thing's actually, I'm not trying to complain, but just as far as like, I used to try to get the most new device as it came out, and I was like all into the trends and whatever. This was years back, but now I intentionally bought something that was released, I think, 6 years ago, right? Refurbished. And so it is, smaller device than a lot of the modern ones, and it's got smaller storage to it, as I discussed. And I'm just saying, I'm out here preaching what I practice. I really am trying to put possessions aside. I really am very, very, very minimal. You see it. I can't really, I could probably, whatever. I'm a human being. How manipulative could I get, right? I've seen some crazy stuff from other human beings. Who do I want to pick to, like, emulate, right? Because we can do that to anybody, right? Again, who you serving? Can't serve two masters, but sometimes we try and get caught in between. The place we're always at. Just meaning we're always off, and then we're back on. Got 1 foot off, 1 foot on, we're trying to climb a fence, but we're sitting on top of it, right? Can't start a fire unless it's actually, like, flaming, lukewarm, right? Right? I mean this stuff, bro. I love the gospel of Jesus Christ. I love my living God, Jesus Christ. Here's one thing, check this out. I'm out here preaching what I practiced. I went my whole childhood saying I would never take the Lord's name in vain, ever. And now last year I got caught up in some stuff, right? Took my records out of the Church of Jesus Christ, right? You know the sitch, if you've heard past episodes of the Image Clothing Company podcast. Got deceived, right? I'm out here preaching what I practiced. I was saying some stuff, dude, and I started talking in ways I never wanted to. Never thought I would. I was praying for years saying, yeah, I'll never take your name in vain, Father. I'm sitting there condemning other people for saying this kind of stuff and those kind of things they shouldn't say. Next thing you know, it's me. I'm out here preaching what I practiced. I practiced being the exact person I tried to not be. Because a lot of times we're avoiding ourselves by trying so hard to be that that it gets a little bit scary. What if we really could? And then we try to be something else, And how many times we want to do this little carousel type of circular motion, right, dude? You know those things, those whirlpools, hurricanes, tornadoes, a lot of circles in life. Shout out to the Lion King. I mean it. We can get all roundabout with this, but see what I mean? I'm just throwing my rings around these rosies, dog. My sister, shout out to my sister's dog. Her name literally is Rosie. Wow. Yeah, dude, I got some wordplay, So, like I said, though, it's one big game, really. And I don't like to play it. I like to sit in this house in all genuinity. I don't think that's a real word. Gosh. I heard a noise. So, here's the thing. How many times are we going to try to contrast something? I'm sitting here saying that I don't want to even go out stepping outside half the time. Because next thing you know, you got like noise as if you're in like a bee hive. But then on the other hand, I'm saying the Image Clothing Company is going to be huge. I'm not trying to say any kind of thing for my sake. I make that very clear, but we're giving people truth. We're sharing the gospel. I'm all of a sudden some kind of preacher sitting up on his pulpit, but I'm sitting on the floor, and I like that. Do you see what I mean? I'm trying to drop myself a little bit in my immense amount of pride that I do have. I mean that. I'm aware. I'm a human being, sinful by nature. Can I just excuse it? Right? Is that what I'm doing? Right? Am I just preaching what I practice? Am I sitting here practicing? How can I say some stuff to make it come across like I'm actually a good person because I'm talking about the bad things I'm doing, but really, like, I just know how to use the words right and make people think something of me? What am I really doing? You know what I mean? Where are you at in this? What do you believe in? Because I say don't believe me. And I mean it. I love this. All right. I'm going to wrap it up with that right there. And please don't believe me. Please don't. Alright, I got a lot of things that I gotta do. I gotta get back on that horse, dude. Yeah, I do. I gotta get back in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I gotta get baptized again. It's more than just like taking a little dunk under some water. Don't believe me. Yeah. Big mistake. I'm out here preaching when I practice. I practiced going exactly the opposite direction of the thing that I knew most all my life was the truth. And after I had a little bit of time, like, yeah, I'm just here to just kind of, be open. And so everybody get their crowbars out because I've been caged my whole life. Yeah. I gotta get to that temple, dude. I'm not worshiping the temple. I'm not idolizing a building. But we're asked to do certain things. If we don't understand fully why, hey, it doesn't matter. If you know it, you know who it's coming from. It's a still small voice. Can we talk about that for a second? I thought I was wrapping this up, but hey, guess what? Time to open up some presents because that's where I want to be. And I didn't feel like I was out of his presence, but I sure was. Right? I was unwrapping things so quick, but really what was happening is I was unraveling, spiraling down. How many times can we talk about circular stuff, right? So, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There we go. Let's go. Please. I mean, how hypocritical can I be? Telling people this about it, telling people that about it, switching my mind, flipping the lights off and on and whatever, trying to walk when they're off. It's probably a good thing, actually. Because then we stumble. And what goes down must come. Come where, right? Sometimes we fall and don't know where to turn. But it's usually the place that we've actually been avoiding the most. So, shout out to my grandma because she's been trying so hard to get me to, do things that I'm supposed to do within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for years. And I was trying just about all I could do to practice avoiding it so that I can now sit here and preach. Is that crazy or what? I mean it. So, that's nuts. It's real. Very real. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. All right, thank you. This is episode 50 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and this is where we're going to sit, halfway there. As far as we're never going to be quite where we think we should, but ideally we do all we can to be all in. And I haven't been doing that. And I'm sorry. And a lifetime of repentance couldn't actually make up for what I've done. But, he's already forgiven us somehow before we even did any of it. So that was his whole mission. It's the truth of all things, man. So don't believe me, please. But it's the place to be. All right. This isn't anything that's benefiting me. I mean, it will in ways because, I can get an income and stuff when this happens, but Really, out of truth, we discuss where clothing sits on humans because that way they can function, they can live. Their physical bodies can just operate so much better than they have been up until the point that they know the things that we tell them here. And we will have clothing available made out of 100% natural materials, staying centered, fitting correct, allowing the body to work. Please just purchase it in your size if you ever decide to, and you don't have to purchase it. But like I said, my name is Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, and this is what we do. So if you want some of this, that's what I want, and that's why it's such a gift to be able to just sit here and do this, because I'm out here preaching what I practiced. And I practiced just waiting for death. Because what if it never got better, right? So now I'm out here talking about it. Because that's really the goal, is to go back home. But not when we decide. It's not up to us, man. That's a selfish thing. I've been all over the place, dude. And right now, we're literally sitting in the space in between. They talk about going from 0 to 100 real quick, but what if I just dwell right in the middle, kind of just like ride the waves, Episode 50 of In The Image Clothing Company podcast. I mean, how right can you be till you're wrong? We're just up and down, man. So it's better to stay down. You know how you get in a fight and they're like, get up, A lot of times they'll give up on hitting you, kicking you, whatever, if you stay down. It's a good place to be. Looking up. The second you think you're the top dog, someone's trying to take you over. But if you're giving things up, you're doing a pretty good job at following the footsteps of our God, who just, gave it all up for us. So, don't believe me, bro. I'm just out here preaching what I practiced, Made a lot of mistakes. They call it being over the hill, but the thing is, now I'm about to roll down the other side. You know what I'm saying? There's a struggle coming up, but now might lose my footing and end up right at the bottom again. Cool. Sounds good. At least I got my shoes laced and tied, right? I mean it. It's funny. Oh, man. Alright. I'm out here preaching what I practice, bro. Oh, gosh. Okay. Thank you.